Star Wars Celebration, or rather Lamentation, was held this past weekend, and oh boy, was there a lot Lucasfilm put into it. Most of it was cringe. Heap to top cringe, heap to top cringe. There were a lot of panels with people who patently had no idea what they were talking about, evincing definitive proof that they have never watched or read anything Star Wars beyond maybe the sequel trilogy. If you want to wear out your facial muscles watching this stuff, you can find clips of all that was on display elsewhere on YouTube. In this video, I want to get into what Lucasfilm decided to show us they intend to put out in the coming few years. The first thing is a new timeline was unveiled, chopping Star Wars into 9 eras: the Dawn of the Jedi, the Old Republic, the High Republic, Fall of the Jedi, Reign of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, the New Republic, Rise of the First Order, and the New Jedi Order. I'm going to make a few guesses on what all of this means beyond what they presented. First, the Dawn of the Jedi will inevitably show that the Jedi originated with a woman, and cover the sort of prehistory of the Jedi until the founding of the Old Republic. This is Kathleen Kennedy's chance to cover up all of the mistakes she has made since Disney put her in charge of Star Wars when they bought the franchise from George Lucas. She has pretty badly wrecked canon with every single project she puts on, and this will be her chance to retcon her mistakes as new canon, or old, as it were. The Old Republic will be her chance to show that woman founded the Republic. If you are sensing a theme in my guesses, it is not because I'm a misogynist. It is because Kathleen Kennedy is an avowed misandrist, at least where Star Wars is concerned. You need only look at how her male characters have been treated in the last decade to see that. And the writers and directors she hires and keeps on have the same worldview. I would hazard to guess that those who are fired or leave are ones who refuse to do what she wants. The High Republic has heretofore been Kathleen Kennedy's baby. Into the High Republic stories, she has pumped all of her far leftist ideology. Everything from radical feminism to alphabet mafia agenda to racial politics. It has all gone into her High Republic project that was supposed to be a grand mini franchise within the Star Wars franchise that would go across movies, television, comics, books, and toys. And none of it sold very well, much to her furious disappointment. The stories were raw propaganda with little in the way of artistic merit. And you know it has been total crap because most people have never heard of it. There were no movies. The single television show that has been in production, The Acolyte, has languished in production hell for over 3 years. The games never panned out. The comics and books were panned by readers and critics, and seemed aimed at pushing the agenda on children, since most of the books were aimed at the young adult demographic or younger. The entire enterprise was creatively bankrupt, to the point that they had a character named Geode that was a he-him rock. Everyone, by the way, in High Republic is Alphabet Mafia obsessed and have pronouns. And yes, I do mean a literal rock. That was a navigator on a transport ship. That is the level of stupid that went into this project. What has been revealed about the Acolyte has not shown any more promise than this. The Fall of the Jedi is the era that is covered in the prequel trilogy and the related animated shows. It is the period where the Jedi have become so stodgy, bloated, and involved with Republic politics that the Order seems to have forgotten what they were meant to be. Jedi like Qui-Gon Jinn tried in vain to keep the spirit of the Jedi, but failed, resulting in Order 66 and the rise of the Empire, which is what Reign of the Empire is. Now, The fact that Kathleen Kennedy has decided to split the period between the rise of Palpatine and the fall of Palpatine into two eras shows she and those who helped her with this fundamentally do not understand Star Wars. The reign of the Empire and the Age of Rebellion are the same period. Basically, everything from the moment Chancellor Palpatine becomes Emperor Palpatine until his betrayal by Darth Vader on the second Death Star. It is a period that only lasts about a quarter century, and it includes the original trilogy, Solo, and Rogue One, as well as the Andor and Obi-Wan Kenobi series. As soon as Palpatine becomes Emperor, there is a rebellion building to take him down. It is the nature of authoritarian states. The fact that the Empire is just as bureaucratic as the Republic helped in this, as is shown at the end of Revenge of the Sith and in the series Obi-Wan Kenobi and Endor. Similarly, the era of the New Republic would coincide with the rise of the First Order. In the Extended Universe books, the New Republic spends years and years fighting various Grand Admirals, generals, and other former Imperial officials who decide to become warlords after the fall of the Empire. Given its similarity to the Empire, and the events of the rise of Palpatine, I have to imagine the First Order started building on the remnants of the Empire's far-flung forces and bureaucracies that refused to bend the knee to the New Republic. So those two eras should also be combined, not separated. And then you have the new Jedi Order. Given what little we have been told about the coming projects, I am assuming a similar process occurred following the fall of the First Order. Remnants of the First Order conglomerated around First Order leaders and create a new counter to the Republic and the Jedi. The problem with these new projects is that the end of the last Star Wars movie showed Rey going to Tatooine to settle into Luke's family's house. That is not how you build a new Jedi Order. You do that by acquiring a large ship and a crew and going from place to place looking for Force wielders. You don't settle into a moisture farm on a backwoods planet in the Outer Rim. But that is enough about their new timeline. It is dumb. Let's acknowledge that fact and move on. Then they announced new projects. Now, rumor, ever a liar where Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy is concerned, claims that Bob Iger has given her an ultimatum to get a Star Wars film out by 2025, or get out. Disney did not buy Star Wars to have it devolve into a streaming series franchise that is not adding anything to the balance sheet, especially with the failure of their Galactic Cruiser Hotel and the fan abandonment of Galaxy's Edge. So, movies were once more announced this year. First up is a new Rey Palpatine movie that will take place 15 years after Star Wars, The Rise of Palpatine. It will apparently show Rey building the new Jedi Order and facing some kind of foe wanting to stop her. Unless Kennedy fires the director announced for the movie and hires someone better, this will be a disaster to make The Last Jedi look like a masterpiece. Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, an Academy Award-winning short documentary director, has mostly non-fiction projects in her background. Of the fiction projects she has done, 4 of them have been Pakistani animated shorts and movies for kids, and 2 have been episodes of Miss Marvel, the lowest rated show in Marvel history, not even breaking above 800,000 people watching at its height. Much like the Eternals for Marvel Studios, Kathleen Kennedy has cast her director for this rather than going out and getting a seasoned veteran of big-budget blockbusters, setting up Miss Obaid-Chinoy for failure. Why Disney Ridley would want to do another Rey movie is beyond me, given how the last 3 went for her. Then again, the last major project she headlined was Chaos Walking, a sci-fi movie she did with Tom Holland after Star Wars The Rise of Palpatine that bombed so hard at the box office they are still filling in the crater it landed in. Next up is the Ahsoka series on Disney+, which is a spin-off of The Mandalorian starring Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. This also has Kennedy's The Force's female fingerprints all over it, as shown by the trailer they showed for it. It is very female-centric, and the most prominent male characters in the trailer were bad guys. What is even worse is they are bringing Grand Admiral Thrawn into the series, played by Lars Mikkelsen. He is a character that helped launch the extended universe's popularity when Timothy Zahn wrote his trilogy opener and classic, Heir to the Empire, in 1992. When it was announced that Disney would be doing a trilogy of movies after they bought Lucasfilm, just about every Star Wars fan wanted Zahn's books used as the template. However, Kathleen Kennedy immediately threw the extended universe in the trash, along with George Lucas's outline for episodes 9 through 11, deciding to go with her ideas instead. Ahsoka looks to be more of the same, and, sadly, now they will probably ruin Grand Admiral Thrawn in live action as well. It is always hoped I am wrong about this. After all, Rosario Dawson makes an awesome Ahsoka, but I see too many red flags in the trailer not to think this is just continuing the trend Star Wars, Marvel, and Hollywood as a whole have going these days. Andor Season 2 was also announced. While the series did not draw many eyeballs, what eyeballs did see it seemed to like it. I made it through one episode before I got bored with it. It was not bad for modern Star Wars. It had the same aesthetic that was present in Rogue One to such good effect, and the characters were decently written and acted. It was just a slow burn. I have since been told it got better from about episode 3 on. So maybe the next time I am within the vicinity of a television with D+, I may give it another longer look. Whether Andor will suffer the same downward spiral that The Mandalorian is currently nosediving in is yet to be seen. But The Mandalorian Season 3 has been a goldmine for YouTubers. They are trying to get the second season to Disney Plus in August of 2024. The Acolyte was also talked about, but no dates were given. It is a project run by a former assistant to Harvey Weinstein, Leslie Headland. The people involved with this project seem to be morally bankrupt as well as creatively. On top of that, they also seem to not know anything about Star Wars. One of the stars of the upcoming series was heard to say one of the things he likes about the franchise is there are no good guys and no bad guys. It is all a matter of perspective. Oh, and this series will be told from the perspective of the bad guys that don't exist in Star Wars because there are no bad guys. This series is from the High Republic era and will probably be filled with ideology in place of characterization and creativity. You will probably also get a bunch of bad guys written in a sympathetic light, since this is what Disney seems to be up to these days. That kind of thinking permeated many of the more recent Marvel stuff, where the bad guys weren't really bad guys. They were just misunderstood, and it is the good guys who were bad for not getting it. Since they failed to give a release date on that for Disney Plus, except to say sometime in 2024, and it has been in production hell for 3 years now, your guess is as good as mine as for when anyone will see this, if anyone cares, that is. Star Wars Skeleton Crew was also announced, starring Jude Law. From what few details have been released, it is about Jude Law's character running around the post-Empire galaxy with a transport full of children. Law will be playing a Jedi who escorts the children to their home planet. Given how few details have been given, among them being a release date, who knows when this will hit Disney+. Tales of the Jedi will also be getting a second season. It is an animated anthology of short stories about Jedi from the prequel trilogy era. The animation style is very much in line with Star Wars animation of the past, which is not really to my liking. Tales of the Jedi seems a bit better and the voice actors they get are fairly good, including Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn. No release date on that one either. The Bad Batch will also be returning for a third and final season. The animated show involved the early Empire era, revolves around a troop of clone soldiers that went rogue from the Empire during Order 66. This will be the wrap-up season on Disney Plus for that show. Star Wars Visions is also getting a second season. Now, this is probably the only thing Star Wars has done to move the creativity of Star Wars forward, which is kind of ironic in the extreme, since it is an anthology animated series that Disney gave over to Japanese animation studios to create new Star Wars stories. Some of them were off the charts awesome in the first series. For Season 2, they will be giving over the Star Wars IP to a more diverse set of studios, however, including studios from Spain, Ireland, Chile, the UK, South Korea, France, India, Japan, South Africa, and the US. Given what I have seen in the trailer that has been released for what they have in mind for Season 2, I'm thinking this is not going to be anywhere near as good as what the Japanese studios did for the first season. Season 2 of Star Wars Visions is set to be released on D+ on May 4th, 2023. Other more nebulous projects were also announced. Among them was a James Mangold film to be set in the dawn of the Jedi era, and that is about the extent of the info on that. A Dave Filoni movie was also announced to be set in the New Republic era, contemporary with The Mandalorian and its spin-offs. While I would normally take Star Wars movie announcements with a grain of salt, since the number of post-sequel trilogy movies that have been announced and never talked about again number in the double digits, Kathleen Kennedy swears that this time she means it. She is claiming that all 3 of the movies announced have been in production for a while. However, multiple projects have been in development for a while at Lucasfilm, only to disappear from the collective consciousness. Also, Kathleen Kennedy has stated that the Lando Calrissian series that has definitively been happening since the release of Solo in 2018 is still definitely happening. It is still probably definitely starring Donald Glover, who played the younger version of the original trilogy's coolest character in Solo, and did an excellent job with the crap writing they gave him. So yeah, definitely probably look forward to that still definitely probably happening series. Sadly, Kathleen Kennedy confirmed that although it was not talked about at the Star Wars Lamentation, the Taika Waititi Star Wars film is still a thing. Quote, "He's writing the script himself. He doesn't really want to bring others into that process, and I don't blame him. He has a very, very unique voice." Unquote. Because Taika Waititi did such a great job deconstructing Thor, they thought they could bring him in on Star Wars to really get the dumpster fire burning nice and hot. Kathleen Kennedy also talked about the aborted Rogue Squadron movie and the Rian Johnson trilogy. Quote, "Rogue Squadron, that definitely is something that we still talk about." Unquote. Although she alluded that it may not return in the same way. Quote, "Whether it's a movie or whether it ends up being in the series space, that's definitely something." Unquote. This was originally supposed to be a Patty Jenkins-helmed movie, but Kennedy managed to chase off Jenkins, who was the director of Wonder Woman. As for the Rian Johnson trilogy, she said it's not being actively developed. I will go out on a limb and guess that is because she knows if she tries, Bob Iger will fire her from the planet. There is no more radioactive person in the Star Wars fandom, barring Kennedy herself, than Rian Johnson. Anything Star Wars he is attached to is destined for failure. The last thing I want to talk about is not Star Wars related, though it is produced by Lucasfilm. They released a new trailer for the upcoming movie called Indiana Jones. I say it that way because there are only 3 Indiana Jones movies. Anything else is bad fanfic. The Dial of Destiny, a truly moronic title for the movie by the way, is set to bomb at a theater near you on June 30th, 2023. That it has been reshot to hell and back, has a budget claiming to be just under $300 million, but is probably a lot more, has some of the worst CGI I have ever seen out of a big budget movie, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is involved. This movie will probably be an epic failure that is all Kathleen Kennedy. It will need to make somewhere around $700 million just to break even. Given the last movie tricked indie fans into paying to see him release aliens in the South American jungle and still made less than $800 million, I doubt Kathleen Kennedy will be able to count this as a win for her. The story is mind-blowingly dumb, involving time travel, de-aged Harrison Ford, old Harrison Ford fighting at age 80, and more Nazis, this time trying to subvert the US space program. The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull killed this franchise, and nothing Kathleen Kennedy or Harrison Ford will do in this movie will make a difference. This is another movie from Disney that will leave a crater at the box office. Unlike the D23 Expo late last year that I covered, there was little to nothing in this 4-day lamentation that moved the needle for me. The only thing that will save Star Wars as a franchise is an Elon Musk / Twitter type purge of all the cranks, activists, and talentless hacks that have glommed onto Star Wars via Kathleen Kennedy and her imbecilic minions. Star Wars has been dead for a while. Fans thought there might be life in the corpse when The Mandalorian came along, but progressively bad seasons with little to no story advancement and the eventual supplanting of Din Djarin by Bo-Katan has showed that no, that was simply the bloated corpse releasing gas as it decayed. Series like The Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi have simply been Disney letting Kathleen Kennedy light the corpse on fire. Disney was a company that was mainly focused on girls. They were the company parents got their daughters into for the Disney princesses. Bob Iger got the brilliant idea of buying their way into the boys' market by purchasing IPs boys like, namely Star Wars and Marvel. Over the past decade plus, Disney has systematically destroyed those brands, specifically Star Wars. They allowed Marvel to be Marvel right up through Infinity War, where the signs started to appear there as well. Now, both Marvel and Star Wars have been relentlessly demasculinizing their stories. Not only that, but they have been making sure all who watch their products understand that the people behind the stories dislike strong male characters of any sort. This has been apparent from the start of Disney Star Wars, and nothing in this past weekend's display gives any hint that Kathleen Kennedy will start caring about making money off of Star Wars anytime soon. That is all I have for this video. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment down below. Thanks for watching. Technical difficulties this past week have made me push off last week's The Ark review until the next episode's review, combining the two. I'm hoping this week's show will be unhampered by the trouble I had last week. Until then, tschüss.